What is stagflation versus a recession?
Ah, okay. Start with recession. Maybe that's easier to kind of go. A recession is a contraction in the economy,
Hmm.
and it's defined by 2 quarters of gross domestic product. So that they measure the overall economic growth under something called GDP, gross domestic product, and it's a big number and it's a huge thing. But how much does it grow on a percentage basis, quarter over quarter, and even year over year? And a recession is where 2 quarters are negative, right? So the economy is contracting and going the wrong direction. In a recession, you normally do not have inflation because the economy is slowing down. And if anything, you might have more chance for deflation where prices are dropping faster than people want.
Hmm.
And so that's a recession. That's what most people are talking about as a possibility. But there is a pretty good sized group of people talking about the possibility of stagflation coming up. The last time we really had stagflation was in the late 70s and early 80s, and that is where you have slow growth of gross domestic product or negative growth of gross domestic product, which would be like a recession, but you can also have just slow growth, really low, and you still have inflation. So even though it's not growing very fast or even shrinking in terms of the economy, inflation's still coming in, right? And so, I mean, one of the things that's pretty obvious that causes something like that, oil prices just go, 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 go. Theoretically, that should drop when the overall economies all start to slow down, but there can be supply side issues where there are just not enough oil coming out to even meet this slightly lower demand, and it still brings the price up. And so when you see, food and energy is a big piece of the consumer price index, certainly the part that's really moving the most right now. And so that's where you can have stagflation. And we do kind of have those potential issues coming at us. If you think about it, food, we're having trouble with wheat getting out of, Ukraine. And so that could create a scenario where the price of food is going up, even if the economies have started to slow down to a pretty low level or even contract. And of course, Russia could cut back on oil, or Europe could try to cut back on their use of that oil, and in so going over to other places, really jack up the price because now they're bidding, hey, we don't want Russian oil, we want this other oil. And so they're, bidding the price up. And so, obviously one of the things that can happen there is Saudi Arabia could step in. They have said that they would be willing to step in and replace a Russian loss of oil. So, we'll see how that plays out. But those are scenarios that can cause that stagflation. Still have prices going up, even though the economy is very slow growing or shrinking. And that's a tough scenario because, generally speaking, wages aren't doing well there. Stagflation is often associated as a recession is with higher unemployment. And so higher unemployment, the employees don't have the leverage like they do now. Employees have leverage right now. 2 openings for every one person looking for a job gives leverage to that one person, theoretically. And so, wages aren't growing, but your costs are growing. That's basically the misery index, right? So that's what we're going to see how this all plays out. It's a pretty tricky road that we're on right now, so we'll see how this goes. But that's the difference.
It is one of the major issues with stagflation is that the Fed kind of runs out of tools because if you raise interest rates, you're causing more and more unemployment.
Yeah.
And so you can't control the standards inflation with just raising rates.
That's right, and that's exactly right. And at least in the 70s and 80s, the parts that with oil, because OPEC basically did a restriction and created this big problem. There's only so many tools that the Federal Reserve has, and so theoretically there might be more interest in trying to do stimulus to get jobs going and what have you. But of course, you do that, you get higher inflation still. So personally, just my outlook, I think we just need to live with some inflation here at a little bit higher level. They're determined, at least in their words, to get back down to 2%. I think it ought to be a slower glide path to get there, and maybe get down to 4 for a while, and then 3, and trying to get down to 2 even by the end of next year, it's going to be really interesting to see. It's going to take quite a few things happening the right direction in order for that to happen. So, but we'll see how this plays out.